Feeling lost in your UPSC preparation? Too many books, countless strategies, and no clear direction? It's time to leave the confusion behind. Welcome to VisionIAS Jaipur's GS Foundation Course 2026, starting from 20th January at 7:30 am and 5 pm. With Delhi's expert faculty now in Jaipur, personalized mentorship and structured guidance, you'll have everything you need to master the UPSC Civil Services examination. From comprehensive syllabus coverage to advanced test series with performance analysis, we ensure your preparation stays on track. Prepare smarter, not harder, with proven strategies, consistent motivation, and complete support from VisionIAS Jaipur. Join the GS Foundation Course 2026 today. Batch starts 20th January, 7:30 am and 5 pm.
How are you? Good. So I hope why we are, why we are here. The topic that we need to discuss today is why Make in India needs Move in India. And basically what this implies is that how manufacturing sector is integrated with infrastructure, and hence if we want manufacturing sector to become successful, first we need to ensure that our infrastructure, and in infrastructure mainly one of the major thing, not mainly but one of the major thing, transport needs to be focused on. If we are not able to focus on transport, then Make in India might still remain a pipe dream. Okay, so this is the goal of what we are going to do, because you must have heard of Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. We need to increase our, first of all, what is this Make in India thing? ठीक है, first we need to understand मेक इन इंडिया का क्या मतलब है, right? So when we say make in India, I hope all of us are slightly aware of some basics in terms of when we say, you know, economy of a region. All right. So in economy of a region, we generally find that one of the most basic forms of economy is your primary sector, right? And in primary sector, you have agriculture, all right, and you have, you can say, forest resources, right? What you call as the hunting and gathering activities, all right, and then you have mining activities, right? All of these are called as primary. Why are they called as primary? Because we directly derive all this from nature. When you're deriving directly from the nature, you call those sectors are primary. And then you have a secondary sector. Secondary sector where the focus is on using these, right? So I'll write somewhat like using, let me write it this way, using these in manufacturing. Manufacturing. Now, when you say manufacturing, what does this word manufacture mean? How is it different from primary sector activities? In primary sector, are you manufacturing something? No. You're directly getting it from nature. Nature already has all the processes, everything is in nature, you only have to do it. For example, in mining, you just have to go and mine it and take it out. Nature makes the resources. In agriculture, there are natural processes. You put the seed in the ground, it will grow. You don't do much with the seed. Okay, you just have to provide the basics and it will grow into a crop. You're not doing anything in that process of crop growing except for providing external support. All right. But when you say manufacturing, manufacturing is where the processes are done by you. These processes we call as value addition. What do we call? Value addition, right? And in this value addition, we produce newer goods, goods which have higher value added. Okay, so manufacturing is simply value addition to primary resources, value addition to primary resources and creating goods. Okay, so you take the primary resources, you value add and you create goods. This is what your secondary sector is all about, right? And then, so in manufacturing, what are the different types of manufacturing that we do? Because when we say make in India, we need to understand what are the different things or kind of things that we manufacture. So you can broadly divide it into, you can say, within the primary sector, you can say forest produce related manufacturing. This is the first one, where you are using wood and other forest produce for manufacturing, including beedi making, right? Or furniture making from bamboo or cane or rattan. All of this is manufacturing. When you're making furniture, it's a manufacturing, but it's not a manufacturing where very high level of engineering is required or something, right? So forest produce based manufacturing. Then you have agriculture based manufacturing. What do we call such industries as? Agro based industries. Agro based industries, right? So forest based industries, agro based industries, and then next is mining. Now in mining, what is the sequence of industries? Here the sequence of industries is slightly different. How? First you have from mining, the resources that you get from the mine, first you have to make it pure, right? Because mines will give you minerals, and minerals are not of use directly from the minerals, which are the ores. Okay? So from the ores you need to derive the basic material, and then so mining of ore, processing. Now when you process the ore, you call it as capital good industries. Capital goods industries, basically. And normally your capital good industries, because you have to understand the whole cycle of industries to understand how make in India requires move in India, which all things you need to move. Okay? So capital good industries, and generally capital good industries are large. Then once you have made the capital goods, then like example of capital good will be something like steel. Now from the steel comes your second, right? So this is your capital good industry. Then comes your intermediate industries. Intermediate industries. What are intermediate industries? For example, they will take the steel and they will make machines, right? So that's your intermediate. They are directly of no use to a consumer like us. हम machine नहीं use करते हैं. But these machines are further used in the next level, what you call as consumer goods industries. Consumer good industries. So from the machines we make different produce, such as durable consumers and durable consumer goods, or fast moving consumer goods, which we call as FMCG. FMCG, fast moving consumer good, which are non durable, right? So you take this, and in this process we also use some of the other things. Okay, so basically we can see that manufacturing sector, right? Seeing here, manufacturing sector is forest produce, agricultural produce, mining produce, and mining produce based this. So when you talk of these broadly, your capital good industries and at times your these industries could further be on the basis of scale. You can call them as heavy industries, and mostly your heavy industries include your capital good industries. Okay? And after your heavy industries, then these industry scales will go on becoming smaller and smaller. And you might reach at the level of micro industries and all. So that's your scale. Okay. So heavy industries are generally big industries, which are mainly dealing with capital goods. Okay. And then you might have large industries and small industries. That's a different scale. You can have a large toothpaste making factory, and you might even have a small toothpaste making factory, right? So that's on the basis of scale. That's a different things. Heavy industry is not size. Heavy industry deals with capital goods. Okay? And consumer goods and all. So that's how those industries are there. Now once you understand this manufacturing sector, then comes your tertiary sector here, यहाँ पे, right? So from this you can flow into tertiary sector, right? What is tertiary sector? Tertiary, this is services. What services? There are different types of services. For example, services which help you complete the task of primary and secondary, right? So they are included in services, right? Things which support, right? So in services you have things which support your primary and secondary primarily. And then you have other services, like you have administrative services, you have educational services, you have research services, and so on and so forth. Okay. But in services, there is a part which we call as infrastructure. Your infrastructure. And in infrastructure mainly comes your services, like which are the services that we include in infrastructure? Services like transport, communication, energy and power, right? These are the main ones that you include in physical infrastructure. And I should say physical infrastructure because you also have something called as social infrastructure. That's a different thing, where your education and health, etc. will come. That's a different story. Okay. So when you say physical infrastructure, in this you have what all? Transport, right? Second, energy and power. Energy and power. These are two different things. For example, crude oil is, petrol is energy, power is electrical. ऐसा हम electrical बोलते हैं, तो वो एक power वाला sector, ठीक है? Power sector. We call it as power sector, ठीक है? Then you have communication. Communication, right? Such as your telecom networks and all this, and your satellite networks helping you with the telecommunication, etc. Now, all these are services which we use, okay? And in this, where does, from our topic, where does Move in India fit in? Move in India requires these two. And it also requires this. Where to move? Communication will tell you. When to move, where to move. That comes from communication. So when you write an answer or when you speak about move in India, it's not only transport. Okay, that's why we have used the word, not transport. What did we say? Make in India requires move in India. How manufacturing is related to, what is the word used? Infrastructure. We are not saying transport only. Okay. So move in India, what will communication do? Where? When? Energy? How? Because for that you need energy. Without energy, how will you move anything? And then you need the transport infrastructure, because your transport infrastructure cannot work without your energy infrastructure. Without energy, how will you move your, for example, electrical railways, ships, trucks? कैसा move करोगे? So transport alone cannot work without energy. So they are related. Do we get it? So this is where the physical infrastructure comes in as your this part. And we are not talking of whole services, because in services there are other aspects also. Okay. Now, having understood, so this is what, when we say move in India, we are broadly talking around this part. Move. Okay, this is what we mean by move. Move requires all this. And why do we need to move? Why do we need to move? Tell me. The need for moving comes from what part? Wait. This is where we come here again. Primary sector and secondary. Now, when you need to move this parts also. These are your raw material. The raw material, you need to move them. Then you need to bring them to manufacturing places. Once you bring them to manufacturing places, then you do the value addition. Right? And this is where you are make in India. This is basically your make. This part. Okay, so all of this, when you say niche wala part, we can say this whole thing together is make. All of this come together into make in India. Make. Not India, I'm just using the word make. Now, when you make, what do you get? Now we have to understand this link, make and move link. Okay. When we see human development, what we find is that societies which are dependent too much on primary activities, they are considered to be traditional societies, not developed societies. They are not doing, using their technologies. They don't have technologies for that matter, and they are not using their resources well. And such countries might be producing only the food, and then they might be selling their raw material to other countries, and then they might be importing machines, etc. Right? What is the burden that puts? That puts the burden that you are selling cheap things and you are buying costly things. And ultimately your resources will be over in the process. Right? So this is the problem of if a country only depends on its primary sector. Then it cannot continue like that for long, because gradually your resources will be over, especially the mining resources. Do we get it? Now, second, then hence a country, and this is what we have seen in development sequence, that countries have to move from primary to secondary, and then they also have to develop their tertiary sector or the services sector so as to become a developed countries. Without this, countries do not become developed countries. So for a single word answer is that moving to secondary and tertiary is a necessity for a country to become a developed country. Is this okay? Now, when we say, are there examples of this? Yes. If you see, where did industrialization start? Industrialization was the beginning of manufacturing sector in modern ways. Not the beginning, but the beginning in modern ways. With industrialization or industrial revolution, modern manufacturing started. Where did it start? Europe, Western Europe, we call it. Okay? So it started in Western Europe, then it came to US, Canada, then from there it went to Eastern Europe, then it went to Japan, then it went to some other countries, it came to China, also India. Okay? But what is the present state of the developed countries in manufacturing vis-a-vis India? Because ultimately we have to come to make India developed. So for that we need to understand where does the world stand. So if you see all the world's developed countries, okay, they have a major share of manufacturing, right, in their basket. They are not primarily agricultural economies or only services, they are manufacturing. And what does manufacturing gives you? Manufacturing gives you the benefit of fulfilling all your basic and next level, advanced, slightly advanced level requirements yourself. And even if you are not making them yourself in your land, you might be controlling that manufacturing. Okay, for example, when you see US or Western European country, they are manufacturing in China, that's okay. Right? Why? Because the cost of manufacturing is cheaper there. But where is the technology coming from? Where is the capital coming from? All of that is controlled by these developed countries. Their companies, they have the patents. Right? They share the patent with China. They use the cheaper labor, they use the resources, and they get the goods and then they utilize. But ultimately, which is the big profit making companies there? In those countries, the companies which own the patent, copyrights, they are the main profit making. For example, when an Apple phone is made, right, or a Samsung phone is made, from Apple phone, which is the country which is mainly earning? US. China is also earning, but US is the main country. When it comes to Samsung, South Korea is earning. So we get, this is why gradually you see that China, which was making, now has come up with its own companies like Huawei and others. So they also have their companies which hold their patents and then they are manufacturing. Do we get? So this whole manufacturing thing is very important for a country first to become self-reliant. Self-reliant, that's the first requirement. And second, fulfill its own needs, and then from that many countries earn. Okay, and when you earn, those foreign currency is also required for various things in the world. For example, one of the most basic requirement of foreign currency in present world is one, fuel and energy. Because most of the countries have to buy their crude oil, you have to buy your nuclear resources, yes or no? And now you also have to buy many critical elements and minerals from other countries because you might not have it. Okay, so critical minerals, fuel, all of this requires you to earn in foreign currency. And how do you earn? By selling your goods. Which goods? You decide. Whether you want to sell the cheap primary sector goods or you want to sell the value added manufacturing sector goods. Is this okay? So that's how the development cycle is related to manufacturing sector. Okay, do we get it? All right. So having understood these sectoral things, the next thing that I would like to take you to is that how this topic of Make in India becomes relevant to us from the exam perspective also. Okay, so let us see the exam perspective of this. थोड़ा वो देखते हैं. Okay, see this. So that's your topic. Why Make in India needs Move in India. How manufacturing sector is integrated to infrastructure. Okay, and I explain if this the question comes in exam, You might think infrastructure, they are only talking of transport, but they are not only talking of transport, because you can't move without communication and energy sector. So you have to, if you miss those points, 2 number कम आएगा या 1 number कम आएगा. That's how you go on losing your marks. ठीक है? People might think, हाँ मैंने भी वही लिखा जो तुमने लिखा. But do you get it? So you have to read and understand things properly. Okay. So which are the questions UPSC has asked around these two related things? Let us see, so that we get a sense. करना क्या है, क्यों करना है, ठीक है? So see these. The syllabus says factors responsible for location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industries in various parts of world, including India. This is one. Similarly, in your paper 3, there is a topic which says infrastructure, and it clearly mentioned what infrastructure includes. It says transport, power, energy, communication, all of this is included in infrastructure. Yes or no? Railways, roadways, everything. Okay. So that infrastructure thing is defined in your paper 3 of your syllabus. All right? Do we get it? Right? Can I assume we have seen the syllabus of paper 3 mains? है ना? तो उसमें दिया हुआ है, साफ साफ mentioned है infrastructure के अंदर. Okay. Now, once we know that that's your syllabus, now the PYQs of relevance from India's perspective. I'm not taking you into the world, but India's perspective. What does it say? How is efficient and affordable urban mass transport key to rapid economic development? So urban mass transport means transportation, right? Second, can the strategy of regional resource-based manufacturing help in promoting employment in India, right? And if you make in India, what will it generate? It will make you self-reliant, self-sufficient, export-oriented, employment generation, and number of things. Okay. So for employment generation and other things, we need to have regional, what does it say? Strategy of regional resource-based manufacturing. Regional means you're not putting everything at one place. You're doing things where they are. Okay. And then once they are made, then you might have to move them where the market is, where the export is to be done. And for that, what do you need? You need transport. Without that, how will you do? So indirectly, these questions are giving you those hints. Okay. Then see the next one. What is the significance of industrial corridors in India? Right? Identify industrial corridors, explain the main character. So what is an industrial corridor? That we have to understand. Okay. Then enumerate the problems and prospects of inland water transport. So they are saying what are the problems of our inland water transport. Smart cities in India cannot sustain without smart villages. Discuss this statement in backdrop of rural-urban integration. Smart cities and smart villages, what do they mean? They are not only communication driven. When you make them smart, they have to be communication driven. They have to have smart communication, but they also have to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and something that contributes to the economy. Then they are smart. If they are a burden, then they are of no use. And for that to happen, you need a integration of the rural with the urban. Right? Because until unless you create smart villages matlab self-reliant, self-sufficient manufacturing, right, which fulfill their needs as well as some of the needs of the urban areas. And then from the urban areas, you might get some services like research, development, administration, training, okay, which can happen in the smart cities, including all those newer methods of AI and other things. And this is how the whole thing integrates. So you need to integrate. Integration means transport, communication. Yes or no? And for keeping all of this smart, you need a lot of energy. Because your smart devices work on power and energy. Okay? So these are some hints that your past year questions have given into the need of this broader thing of manufacturing cannot happen without proper infrastructure in place. Okay? And that's why you need proper move in India. That's why we have used this word, make in India requires move in India. Is समझ में आ गया? Is this okay? Yes. You have a doubt? What will be, will it be a smart village if it is having good agriculture in place of good manufacture? Very good. I'll give you an example here that might help. For example, when you see the villages in Punjab or Haryana, okay, let us take two examples, crops and animal produce. You have many villages in Haryana which are producing a lot of milk, right? And you have many villages in Punjab which are producing a lot of vegetables, right? Like tomato. I'll give you one example. Now let us compare this village with a village in Denmark or Netherlands, right? Both of them are producing milk and tomatoes. Netherlands is known for tomatoes, isn't it? And Denmark is known for milk produce. Are the two villages similar? The answer is yes and no both. Yes, in a very crude way, but no in a very smart way. How? The difference lies that in these two villages, one of them specializes in services and manufacturing also. Right? Which ones? The ones in Denmark and Netherlands. How? They are doing a lot of research, training, development, manufacturing, processing of the same produce from which they earn. Whereas a village in Haryana and Punjab are doing none of them. So at a crude level, they are similar villages. You can say we have reached Denmark, but we are too far from it. Do we get it? So a smart village is not just a village which is producing or just manufacturing. It has to have an integrated system. And an integrated system which also includes a lot of research, development, training, right? And data processing. They're doing everything. What is needed? How the market demands are changing. For that, they have cooperatives, right? So cities in Denmark or Netherlands, their cooperatives in cities, they are doing all that research, collecting all the data from the world. What is required where? Which season? What market? Do we get? And then they are using all of that in manufacturing in their villages. So that's a smart village and a smart city. We lack that. Okay, and that value addition will give you profits which you cannot garner from a normal bottle of selling milk. You sell 100 maximum Haryana, let us say organic milk, the best milk possible, let us say. Okay, A2 coming from our cows. We are getting it. Maybe we can sell it at 120 rupees liter. But when Denmark processes the cheese, it sells the cheese for 2,500 rupees, 100 grams. 25 times costlier. From that 1 liter, they will make 100 gram cheese only, but they will sell it. From the tomato, they will make some of the best ketchups and sell you, and we buy and eat. Do we get? So this is that integration that we are talking about. If we need to move that to that level, that's when you become developed. Otherwise, you remain developing. Is that okay? So we get this broadly? Okay. Good. We have to think of examples, and all these examples are there in our content. Right? You just have to learn the basic tricks of how do you connect this with that. That connection is more important than the information. Information you have. I didn't give you any new information. Everything was known to you. But you just need to connect. Alright?
Looking for strong revision, innovative curriculum and dedicated mentoring for the General Studies paper of UPSC Prelims 2025? With only a few months left for the Prelims exam, does the lack of mentoring, robust syllabus and absence of revision strategy make you anxious? VisionIAS has the perfect solution for you. Join the Fast Track Course 2025, covering every aspect of students' preparation including coverage of GS Prelims syllabus, dedicated mentoring and guidance for performance maximization, regular practice with sectional mini tests, access to PT 365 for current affairs preparation, performance assessment and feedback. Available both offline and online, choose the program mode as per your convenience and excel in GS Prelims with high scores. Admission to the course now open. With UPSC Prelims 2025 knocking at your doorstep. Are you feeling the jitters? Is the vast syllabus making you anxious, and are you struggling to use these last months effectively to revise and brush up your knowledge? Stay calm and take charge of your preparation. Utilize these last months effectively to revise each subject thoroughly with the quick revision classes for General Studies Prelims 2025 starting on 5th February at 1 p.m. These classes offer comprehensive coverage of key subjects and topics for quick revision. Seize the opportunity and stand out in UPSC prelims with targeted documents like the Quick Revision module. Commence your Quick Revision classes for features including thematic coverage of GS syllabus, coverage of core subjects like polity, economy, and more. Personalized one-on-one mentoring support. Comprehensive and updated Quick Revision module. Integrated assessment and feedback. In these last crucial months, act wisely and choose the smart revision strategy to excel in UPSC prelims.
So, should we come back to this? So, when we say manufacturing, so did we understand the importance of manufacturing? Right? Manufacturing is not a sole activity in itself. Manufacturing is a enabling activity which integrates other things together, and the whole setup, the ecosystem that you create from it, makes you developed. It creates employment for n number of other sectors. All right. So, now let us move to factors responsible for location of industries, because we are talking about industries, manufacturing. So, which are the factors which are responsible in location of industries? And for this, we will take the content from your basic book. We will not go far beyond. I am not saying any research paper, kuch nahi padhna hai, not needed. Everything comes from your basic source. So, when you take your, for example, fundamental of human geography book, in that there is a chapter on manufacturing sector. In that they have given you all the elements of factors responsible for location of industries. है ना? कौन सा factor है? The factors they give are starting with, now they give you something like this, but I would like to start this whole story from one end, the government policies. Government policies are the most important in the development of a country. Out of all the other factors, the most important factor is government policies. Why? Because the government policies create right policies create right institutions create right infrastructure creates right environment, and that right environment leads to development. Okay? And this is what got this year's Nobel Prize also. Economics Nobel Prize goes to a set of authors and writers who say that the difference between development and non-development, why nations fail and why nations succeed, are institutions. The institutions that they create. Which institutions? In different sectors. Democratic institution, economic institution and all. But right now here we are talking of economic. So if your economic institutions are right, things will happen for you. Otherwise it might not happen. And who will create economic institutions and structures? Government policy. So the most important factor in development is government policies. If your government policies are right, then only things will happen. Okay, so our government is doing things in the right direction. They are coming up with Atmanirbhar Bharat. They are coming up with Make in India. On the other side, they are also doing things in the infrastructure sector. So we need to see that link and we need to create a. Is this okay? So first, government policy. Second, human resource development. Right? And human resource development is taken care of in which part? It is taken care of in your social infrastructure. Right? Education, health, those things we provide. Then, which is the third one? The third in this sequence is whether the country has resources or not. If a country has decent population, which it can turn in, or citizens, which it can turn into human resource by investing, then human resource can be developed. The next thing you need is technology. Either you create your own technology by research or you get it by collaborations. Right? For collaboration, you need to have an open economy. If you want to develop everything yourself, then you can have a closed economy. But that might be a time-taking process. The third thing that you need is So as I said, resources. So resources decide. If you have resources, you do not need too much of collaboration. Okay, you can create a self-consuming market, but then self-consuming markets might again have some limitation. So if you want to sell and earn in foreign currency, especially in the last century and this century, you find a lot of foreign currency requirements are there for different countries. So in that case, you have to export and earn. There is no other way. So you need to open. Even if you have your resources, you have to. And if you don't have resources, then anyways you have to have foreign currency. Without foreign currency, you can't get your resources. You can't import. Like Japan, right? You need foreign currency to get the resources. And for that, you have to export. If you export, then only you get your raw material, then you process it, and you again, sorry, I said opposite. If you have foreign currency, you earn your, by export, you earn your foreign currency, you use the foreign currency for importing raw material, value adding, and exporting the goods. That's how you earn. Okay. So this part, and capital is another factor. So government policy, human resource, raw material, capital, then the market. Market is another factor, whether you are mainly doing it for export or import. If you are doing it for import, the domestic consumption, the word is not import, the word is domestic. If you are doing it for domestic consumption, you can produce near to consumption centers. But if you are doing it for export, you have to base it on transport locations, especially port locations. For example, if you see in Japan and Korea, most of their manufacturing, or even if you see present day China, most of their manufacturing is located close to their ports so that they can produce and export it. Okay, but if you want to consume domestically, then maybe you can locate it close to your internal markets also. All right, and all of this will decide what kind of transport infrastructure you need. Okay, and then other factors like power and others are also there. Okay. Now, in all of them, if I ask you, our focus is between industry and transport and power. In power sector, what do you think? Which is the cheapest mode of transport? Acha, if a country has to industrialize, does it have to transport small amount of material or large amount of material? Large amount, bulk material and different, right? Which is the cheapest mode of transport? Water. Water transport is the cheapest mode. Second cheapest? Railways. Third cheapest? Roadways. Right? And air is the costliest mode. Hence, generally companies do not depend on air transport until unless these are extremely high value, which have to be, protected and all that. So basically, when we move to transport, what we understand is that the most preferred in terms of cost is waterways. Second is railways. Third is roadways. And then lastly is airways. Okay. And any developed country in the world has a very well developed network of waterways, railways, then they come to roadways for commercial transport. Commercial transport in most of the developed countries is not done by roadways. It is mostly done by waterways or railways, especially bulk transport. Small transport, manufactured, distribution, all that might require this, but not the basic like mineral resources, right? Or other raw material. They are not transported by road. They are transported by railways or waterways, so that the cost of production becomes less, because it's all about cost. All of this adds to your cost of production, right? And your final cost in the market will be decided by these factors also. All right. So these are your transport sequence in terms of the cost preferences. All right. Now, having understood this, and then the next thing we need to understand here is that hence when you see all the developed countries in the world, developed countries, we find that their manufacturing sector is very well supported by this transport network. Transport network. Supported. Right? Manufacturing is supported by their transport network. And in transport network, what are they preferring? Waterways and railways and then roadways. This is the sequence. Okay, rail and road. Right? We'll see how it is different in India. Okay, that will help you understand the next level. Now, let us come to India. Indian manufacturing dekhte hain. So when we say Indian manufacturing, I hope that most of you are aware of the major industrial regions in our country. Okay? And if you are not, you can see the diagram and you can understand. Right? So when you talk of major industrial regions, these are the major industrial regions that we have in the country, right? And if we put a number to them in their growth, it starts with Mumbai, then it goes to Hooghly, then it is Ahmedabad. After that, we had the development of Chota Nagpur Plateau region, industrial region. Then we have the Delhi industrial region coming up. And post independence, the major growth of other industrial regions. Which are the other industrial regions that grew post independence? One of them was the Bangalore, Tamil Nadu. Then came the Vishakhapatnam, Guntur, including Hyderabad. And then came the Kerala region of Kollam and Thiruvananthapuram or Trivandrum as we call it, right? So these are how many? 1, 2, so 1, hopefully it works. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the 8 industrial regions that we have in the country. And what is the present status of manufacturing in our country? If I ask you, you know the share of economy, right? So in our economy, presently approximately 55% share goes to services sector. How much is there with the agriculture? Approximately 17-18%. And how much is there with the manufacturing? Remaining, which is nearly 27%, 27-28%, whatever remains, that much. So at present, our manufacturing contributes only 1/4 of our total share. Okay? And we are not manufacturing everything that we require, even for our domestic market. Right? We are importing many of the manufactured products, especially from cheaper places like China and all. Right? So despite of having these industrial regions, and then there are many minor industrial regions. ये सब कहाँ दिया हुआ है? आपका basic NCERT. Okay. So, and then you have many minor. What is the challenge? Why are we not able to manufacture enough in the country? What do you think? What are the challenges? Technology, okay. Or okay, let us compare with some countries where they were able to manufacture. Like for example, when you say 1970s, 1970s is the time. I hope most of you know India and China had nearly same per capita income, and we were almost at the same level, right? And they were also a socialist country with a communist polity, and we were a socialist country with a democratic polity. Same levels, same per capita income, same level of manufacturing. Okay, all of this. How did China catch up? Presently, it is nearly 3 times our per capita. How? What do you think? What have they done? Have they suddenly developed their technology? Production capabilities. How did they develop their production capabilities? Utilizing the sources or resources. What are you saying? Resources, utilizing the resources. How did they utilize their resources? How do you utilize your resource without power and transport? Mine mein hai, mines are full of mineral, but how do you use it? First, you need to have infrastructures, right? And for infrastructure, what is needed? Capital, right? And for capital, you have to How can you get capital? There are just three ways you can get capital. One, you can ask someone, please give me aid. Second, you can attract FDI. Attract. You can ask someone to invest. So one, you can take aid. Second, you can take investment. Third, you can earn. Was China earning it? No, China was not earning. Were they getting aids? No, they were not getting aids. There was no aid that came to China. It opened up its economy and it got investments. Right? It opened up its economy and created an environment. The government policy created the environment. What did they say? Invest in China and we will give you cheap labor. Cheap labor, ease of doing business, we'll give you quick clearances for everything. We will give you the cheapest mineral resources also. Just do your investments. This is how they attracted company. Right? Once they attracted company, they got, and they opened up their economy. So for the world, it was a change. The world saw, array, China has become open economy. Right? A socialist communist country has become a open economy. They thought, oh, China is moving toward capitalism. Right? China opened the economy. They got the money. When they got the money, where did they invest it? Did they put the money in the share market? नहीं, कहाँ किया? They put all that money in infrastructure development, social and physical. They used the money to train their manpower on one side, and second, they created the infrastructure. Which infrastructure? Transport infrastructure, power infrastructure, and communication infrastructure. Once you do this, then your ground is set for further investment. Companies can be attracted. What will they see? Oh, in this country, we have transport, we have people to work, everything is coming cheap, and the government is also giving other benefits like tax benefits and others. And this is how companies further kept investing. They found China to be a cheap source of or cheap location for manufacturing. So China technically became the factory of the world. It didn't become an industrialist country in the sense that it created its companies. No, China did not create any companies. Anything produced in China doesn't mention which company produces it. All it says is, check your goods. Does it give you the name of the company which made your phone? No. Does it give you the name of the company which made your clothes? No. No matter which company is making, China is only the factory. Initially, it became the factory. Right? So for becoming the factory, what did it do? Very simple. What it did was that it knew, okay, and China's geography is not like ours. Okay, China's industrial regions are mostly on the coastal region, aisa. Right? And these coastal regions, it created the infrastructure. How? First, it created the port infrastructure, power infrastructure, and the raw material connectivity to the interior regions. Right? And it also created the human resource development by training. They didn't provide education to everyone to become a graduate. They gave vocational training, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, just to do some semi-skilled works. Right? And then they put all those people into factories. Right? And then they utilized this structure and then they helped their people to get employment, and in the process they manufactured and they kept earning. Do we understand? Now, I'm not saying India has to become China. What we have to understand is how does industrialization happen quickly in a region? The idea is to understand that. The idea is not to become China. We should never become China. Okay, but this is how China did. Now the same thing, let us see here. What do we have in these places? We have some manufacturing things, we have some workforce. We also have our resources distributed here. But what is the main challenge? One of the main challenge that you find is infrastructure. Our infrastructure is missing. Which infrastructure? Our power infrastructure, our communication infrastructure, all that is missing. So though we have industrial regions, but we do not have proper connected industrial regions. Right? India misses proper connected industrial regions. It has isolated industrial regions. And those regions, they are connected. But what is the best source of connectivity? Roadways. Their best connectivity is in roadways. It is not in railways. Now you might say, sir, it is in railways. Why are you saying like this? It is in railways, but that railways is only passenger railway. Our major industrial region connectivity is in passenger transport. It's not in goods transport. Commercial good transport share in railway is very less. Right? So, road transport mainly developed. Commercial good transport through railway very less. Now, cheaper than that was waterways. But do we have inland waterways? Inland waterways are also missing in India. So, if a company has to move a good from here to here, or here to here, or here to here, which is the best way for them to move their goods? Road transport, which means not the first, not the second. And when you're not using your first option and your second option and you're using only your third option, in terms of economy, your cost will become high. If your cost becomes high, your competitiveness becomes low in domestic market as well as international market. That's why we say that Indian companies do not want to compete with international market, or they don't want to compete with the international companies or MNCs. They want their economies to remain closed, because the foreign companies, if they come, how are they transporting everything? They are mostly using waterways and railways. Their cost of manufacturing is much less. Do we get it? So, this is a realization that India made in 1991. There are many realizations India made in 1991. The first realization was that we cannot remain a closed economy hereafter. Why? Because we need forex. Why? Oil. We were not having enough money to even pay for 1 week of oil. So India said, nahi yaar, ab to dollar kamana padega. And how do you earn dollar? I told you there are 3 ways. No one was giving you aid. Loan bhi nahi mil raha tha. Ratings were too low. Why were you not getting loan? Because your ratings are too low. If your ratings are too low, no one will give you a loan. Aid कौन देगा? IMF and World Bank. World Bank बेचारा पॉवर्टी के लिए देखता है. IMF because of balance of payment. IMF ने बोला कितना बार आपको देंगे? You need to make a mechanism of earning yourself. This is where India said, now let us open our economy. This is why we opened. But when we opened, we thought we'll get investment in manufacturing. We didn't get. Why? We didn't have those infrastructures. So this is when we started realizing, nahi yaar, हमारा तो कुछ और भी missing है. It's not only financial sector. It was only also in the infrastructure sector. Now, what were the things which were missing in the infrastructure sector? We found that our change, right? What we found is, let us go one by one. In waterways, first of all, I should write on the industry part. We found our industrial regions, they are not well connected for the goods to move easily. At the first realize, we have industrial regions, but they are separate from each other without proper connectivity. When we come to connectivity, we found our waterways, port and inland, both were not very good. We had 12 major ports, right? That's what the Ministry of Water Transport, Coastal Transport still mentions. आज भी वो लिखते हैं, आज का website में भी उनका ये लिखा हुआ है, 12 major, 200 minor ports. But we found they were not having proper infrastructure on the port, right? Waterways, what was the status? We had only 5 national waterways till then, plus one, plus another one, if I'm right, in terms of announcement. Okay, so these were the waterways that we had, and they were also not contributing in any major ways. So neither our port were contributing nor our inland waterways were there, well developed. Then it comes to railways. What was the status of railways? Railways, since independence, was transformed from a method of, I use this word, exploitation, to a method of welfare. Before independence, railways was profitable, but it was a mode of exploiting the country for resources. From administrative perspective, this is what the Britishers did. When India became independent, they converted railways into welfare. They reduced the cost of railway charges and they cross-subsidized. Goods transport was made costly, passenger transport was made cheap. And most of the focus was on passenger transport. Because of this cross-subsidization took away railway share of goods transport. People said, nahi yaar, goods वहाँ भेज के फायदा नहीं है, they are charging more. because they want to subsidize passenger transport. Why? Populist measure. Once you give a populist measure, you can't take it back. Giving is easy, taking back is, if you make the cost of the ticket cheap, you can't increase the cost. If you increase the cost, you are in trouble. Do we understand? So by 1990s, it was realized that railways is mostly used for passenger and passenger good. Second, because it was not profitable, the infrastructure was also deteriorating. So investment was missing. Investment, and there was no money to invest in railways at that time. Right? So what the government realized was that passenger, I should rather use, rather than investment, I should say overburdened. This infrastructure was overburdened. यहाँ पे investment का जगह सीधा overburden word लिखते हैं. This was overburdened. Right? Overburdened. Which means that they could not take a part of the railway and put into this. Okay, so this is where the government said, "No, now we need to do few things at structural level." Right? And this is where the focus on infrastructure gradually started catching up. So they knew they cannot take away the passenger part. They knew they cannot, suddenly do something. So by 2005-6, new policies in railways and waterways and roadways came up. Right? So in the on the waterways front, what were the policies that you see as of now? For example, क्या क्या किया भारत ने? We have the different projects of port development. Now you see it as in the form of Bharatmala या Sagarmala. कौन सा है? Sagarmala. Sagarmala is bottom, Bharatmala is top. And Bharatmala and Sagarmala together connect this with this. That's how the project goes. ठीक है? So on the port development, it was this. On the inland waterways development, what have the government done? 2016 we had our Inland Waterways Act, right? And they have declared additional 105 national, not 105, additional 106 national waterways, new waterways. Okay? So the government declared that we'll create our infrastructure on national waterways. One, on the railway front, the government decided that now we will create what they call as dedicated freight corridor. Okay? So dedicated freight corridor, freight matlab commercial goods. Okay? So now we have to understand that what is the plan? What is the plan in this whole story? Quickly. The plan in this whole story is somewhat like this. Understand the plan? And the plan presently is to on one side, connect all these industrial regions, from industrial regions to what they now call as industrial corridors, industrial and economic corridor. So all of this is to be turned into industrial and economic corridor. What is a corridor? A connected region, right? So this whole zone, that's our first thing. And in that we are doing different industrial economic corridors, such as the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, right? And we have many other, from Bangalore to Mumbai, and we have Kolkata and North, right? So different industrial corridors are there. Industrial corridors will be zones of manufacturing, which are well connected. Okay, now in these industrial corridors, so when they say industrial corridor, different facilities will be provided in this, different facilities. What type of facilities? Infrastructure, financial, right? Then you can say R&D. All these services they intend to provide in these industrial corridors. That's a major project. वो जो industrial corridor वाला question था, we saw. So that is what they are trying to do in this, providing connectivity or a continuous zone. We can call it as a contiguous zone, right? In this, there is another project that the government has put up, which they call as NIMZs. NIMZ. National Investment and Manufacturing Zones. Okay. So in these manufacturing zones that are to be created within these corridors, different industries will be focused on. Okay. So NIMZs within your corridors to focus on different sector. Maybe one will be textile, one might be agro, one might be forest, one might be tech, so on and so forth. Chemical industries and so on and so forth. So different NIMZs have also been announced in this. Okay. So one, industrial corridor. Second, NIMZ. This is on the Make in India part. This is the goal on the part of Make in India. Now for Make in India, how do they intend to move in India? This is the second part. For move in India, this whole thing, I hope you can see, this looks like a quadrilateral. This is what we call in terms of our transport as golden quadrilateral. The word for this region is golden quadrilateral. And when you connect like this, you call it as east-west and north-south corridor. Okay. So in this golden quadrilateral plus east-west north-south corridor, to help the industrial corridor and NIMZ, the government has many transport related or infrastructure related project. On one side, we are having a connected grid, single grid for the whole country. That is our first goal. Right? So that's where, because earlier we had different grids for different regions. So they created a connected grid where we have a capacity presently of nearly 243, if I'm rightly recalling, that's what your economic survey says, gigawatts, and 100 and some 1 lakh some megawatts of energy transfer capability between a single frequency grid. Okay, so that is our power thing that we are doing. Then in infrastructure. Second, in terms of transport. In terms of transport, there are various projects which the government is bringing into this zone, such as, so this diagram shows you the industrial corridors, various industrial corridors. I'll be sharing this at the end of this session. So National Industrial Corridor Program. Okay, various parts of the program. And to help this corridor Make in India, the Move in India part includes, for example, port development. We have the Sagarmala project. Okay, so Sagarmala project is for developing the port infrastructure across this, right? Then second, that is on the waterways front. Then national waterways front, what you call as inland waterways. So in the inland waterways front, we have these 13 national waterways now in operation, and on various others, the project is going on. The goal is to develop 111 national inland waterways so as to reduce the cost of transportation. Okay, so that's your national inland waterways thing. So these two things the government is doing with respect to port development, right? Then we come to railways. In the domain of railways, we call it as the dedicated freight corridor. This is the dedicated freight corridor map. Now, if you see this map, this also overlaps with the same industrial economic corridor, right? What is the goal? Move in India, right? So in dedicated freight corridor, what is the government doing? They are not using the old infrastructure of railways. They are creating completely new railway infrastructure from scratch. We call it as greenfield. So this is a greenfield project. From scratch, they are creating railway infrastructure which will only be used for, no passenger in this, only goods will be transported. Do we get it? So that's your DFC, sanctioned projects and future projects. So gradually we'll try to connect all of this in our DFC projects and implement. Then apart from that, on the national highways, so that was your railway thing. In railways, we are doing other things also. और क्या कर रहे हैं हम? In railways, apart from dedicated freight, we are working on improving our basic infrastructure of railways using the Vande Bharat and different other programs. Then we are also making bullet trains. for faster connectivity between major cities. So all these projects are to improve our first two modes of transport, because they will decide whether India will be able to manufacture or not. Okay, if we have the right power, resources to hai, jo bhi hai, whatever we have, but energy and transport. If we are able to connect it properly and make a corridor, that will, be able to help us with becoming a manufacturing focused country. So in the national highways, you find the different parts of the project. And the National Highway Authority of India, NHAI, they have the major project NHDP. That is one part in which they have different sectors or sections, right? In which they are developing the double laning, four laning, widening, all that, right? And second part is expressway development. Now you also find government is investing heavily in expressway development. By the way, what is the difference between highway and expressway, if I ask you? Are highways expressways? Highway has so many exits and entries. And expressway is very good. The difference between expressway and highway is not an administrative difference. It's a technical difference, right? As he said, the technical difference is expressways have limited access. They are limited access roads. Highway can be even a 2-lane open road. वो भी highway है बहुत जगह पे. But that's not and it is under NHAI. It's not an expressway. And at many places you have expressway which are not highways. They might be state roads, right? But they are expressways. So what is an expressway? Limited access road, right? So you don't have an access at many places. If you enter, if your entry is wrong, you might have to go a few tens of kilometers to come out. You don't get exit easily. Second is, they don't have junctions, right? So they have service lane entry and service lane exit, right? So you have to, so on expressway, what will you find? They will always mention exit after 2 kilometers. Why are they mentioning? So that you gradually change your lane, come to the side lane, take the service lane and exit. There is no junction in a expressway. All right, highways might have junctions. They might have red light, they might have everything. Do we get it? Now, why do we develop it? So that your speed of movement remains constant. And that's why expressways also have at times minimum speed, not maximum speed. They have a minimum speed at many places. If you are moving below that, don't move on that road. If your vehicle is not up to the mark, many times they don't allow the vehicle to go on that road, right? So that the minimum speed is maintained. What are they trying to attain through that? Timely covering the distance. They want distance to be covered in a timely manner so that goods reach on time. Once they reach on time, then only your manufacturing will be in tune. Otherwise, what is happening? The time of transport is different, right? Many times you take a lot of time to transport and those challenges. So we understand this is this thing. Now, in addition to this, in the same route, we are also doing the Bharatmala, like this, connecting the Bharatmala project, right? Bharatmala is trying to connect which parts? The border areas and the upper regions, northern parts, you can say, all this, right? Northwestern, northern, northeastern region. And finally, these are to be connected to your port regions, right? So all these regions get connected, a comprehensive coverage, so that you can have regional productivity. That question on regional productivity, right? So that kind of connectivity we want to create. Not only in the major industrial regions, but even in other regions where we can move the good, do regional productivity, bring out the resources wherever required, and so on. Okay? So this is how the government at the moment is trying to create move in India, right? For ensuring that Make in India becomes successful. On the other hand, we are creating employment generation programs, etc., right? Or training programs and all those things, which are social infrastructure. So social infrastructure, it is working, physical infrastructure, it is working, and extending the manufacturing zone in which it is creating those corridors. Because what we had might not take us to where we want to go. So we need to create all these new things. And this is how, once they get connected, India will be ready for becoming a major manufacturing power. Just saying that, oh, we need to do investment where? What are the project? How do you connect? What is the logic? That logic lies here. That's why we say for Make in India, we need to have proper move in India. If things will move, then only Make in India can become successful. Otherwise, it will not. Is that okay? So that's where we end this session. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we end this part of the session, and then we might have another one coming up about the second part. Anything? Nothing? No doubts? Good enough? Yes. Come again. भारतमाला परियोजना का डिटेल चाहिए? What नहीं क्या? What are we doing? Is that the question? In Bharatmala project, the idea is to connect your remote locations. जैसे इसको हम बोलते हैं border area of India, which is nearly 15,200 kilometers. ठीक है? इसको बोलते हैं coastal areas. The length of this is nearly 6,100 kilometers. On those 6,100 kilometers plus in your coasts in the islands, which is nearly 7,500 kilometers total, we are doing port projects. Okay. What are we doing here on the border connectivity? For the border connectivity of 15,200 kilometers, we are making Bharatmala project, which will connect all these border areas, and Sagarmala will connect all our port areas. So all our coastal regions will be connected, and inside we are already doing those projects. So every region becomes connected. That's the idea. Okay. So let us take a break, and after the break, let us come back 15-20 minutes, and then we do the next part of the session. Okay.